Hello everyone. Today we're carrying on with the lessons from the chapters of Charles Fillmore's book, The Science of Being, Christian Healing. If you haven't watched the first few lessons, I suggest that you do that. It's not 100% necessary. You'll still be able to take something from this lesson, but this is number 4 now. So again, just quickly, each chapter is of this incredible book. One of my favorites is a lesson about spiritual science, which is really at the heart of everything that we see, think, feel and believe. And then at the end of each chapter, Mr. Fillmore has included these really cool statements or affirmations to activate or realize the divine mind. So for those of you who are still really hoping or have been trying to raise the sacred secretion or kind of actualize that spiritual power and discernment within, this book does give results. The words, especially for the affirmations and statements, are written in a particular scriptural way, where they are heard by the unconscious mind, and so you might not feel it straight away, but you will certainly start to notice shifts in the way that you see and perceive and feel things, and you will probably notice things in the reflection of other people around you as well, and just in general everyday life, synchronicities, that sort of thing. It really is a powerful book for alignment or realignment, and also just for nurturing and bringing us back to a place where we can really stand firm in our power of our faith and our belief, and have real clarity of divine mind, which I know for me are the main things that if those tools start to get a little bit dull, I notice it in the way that I move through the world and the way that I feel and exist in the world. So I always have to come back and sharpen those faculties, which are such blessings in the God design, our fearfully and wonderfully, miraculously made temple bodies. So here I go. I will read the chapter and we will do the affirmations together. Lesson 4, the formative power of thought. I've highlighted quite a few things in this chapter, so I feel like it's a good one. That the body is moved by thought is universally accepted, but that thought is also the builder of the body is not so widely admitted. We know that thought moves the various members of the body because we have constantly before us manifestations of the close sympathy between thought and act. Before I run, I think that I will run, and my legs begin to move swiftly in imagination before I begin the action outwardly. It was found by a system of experiments made at Harvard University that the thought of running causes the blood to rush into the legs. A man was put flat on his back on a balanced beam, which was adjusted so that the least bit of added weight at head or foot registered on the index. When a perfect balance was attained, the man was given a problem in mathematics to solve. Immediately, the index showed increased weight at the head, indicating that thought had cooled the blood there. Then he was told to imagine that he was running. and the index showed added weight shifting to the feet. Here is proof that thought not only moves the external members of the body, but that it controls the fluids flowing within the bodies. Now we know how important these internal fluids are. We talk a lot about the cerebrospinal fluid in the teachings of the sacred secretion or the Kundalini, which again, my book, The God Design, Secrets of the Mind, Body and Soul, does explain both spiritually and physically. So let me just go back on that. Here is proof that thought not only moves the external members of the body, i.e. your arms or your eyes, but that it also controls the fluids within the body. If thought so readily moves the blood from place to place, who shall say that it does not move the nerve fluid, or that still more volatile substance, the magnetic force that pervades all organisms? We affirm that thought controls nerve forces and magnetic force, and that it not only moves them, but also forms and organizes their activities in the body. Medical authorities of the highest repute tell us that certain organs of the body are self-renewing. That it is a puzzle to them how these parts ever wear out. If you had a sewing machine that constantly replaced the little particles worn away by friction, would that machine ever be destroyed? In health, man's body has this power of replacing worn parts, and when it is in harmony, it never wears out. The harmony referred to is self-adjustment to the law of being, to the law of divine nature, or to the law of God. It does not matter what you call this fundamental principle underlying all life. The important thing is to understand it and to put yourself in harmony with it. We have often been told that we should be healthy if we conform to the laws of nature, but no one has ever been able to tell us just what those laws are. Some have said that this conformity consists in eating the right kind of food, or in drinking the right kind of water in the right sort of way, or in breathing pure air and wearing suitable clothes. We have all done these things, and there is yet something lacking. It is quite evident that we have not, by observing these external adjustments, gotten at the underlying principle of nature. Nature works intelligently, and we shall never be able to conform to her laws until we approach her as we would a wise and loving mother, who we know gladly gives us what we want when we use it wisely. Nature is not a blind force working in darkness and ignorance. All her works indicate intelligence, mind in action. This being true, we perceive that we cannot conform to the laws of nature until we recognize the mind through which she works. Those who have not thought about this proposition, those who have not tried to know and understand the mental side of life, are like men walking in broad daylight with their eyes closed. The mind has eyes, and we can see or perceive the inner intelligence when we look with the mind. But those who look wholly with the physical eye are really blind, having eyes they see not. And this is why I called my website Seek Vision, because vision is more like internal sight. It's like the God imagination, or the God sight, if you like, supernatural sight, vision, to see things that aren't here yet. Possibilities, ideas, ideals even. Man's salvation from sin, sickness, pain, and death comes by his understanding and conforming to the orderly mind back of all existence. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Man is an epitome of being, God. Psychology finds his soul responding to all the emotions, sensations, and vibrations of the sentient world around him. And spiritual science discerns that his superconsciousness is inspired with all the ideas fundamental in divine mind. Man, then, is the key to God and the universe. And he may know all things by studying his own constitution. Supreme in this constitution is mind. Man must base all his researches on mind, because mind is the starting point of every thought and act. Some metaphysicians teach that man makes himself. Others teach that God makes him. And still others hold that the creative process is a cooperation between God and man. The latter is proved true by those who have had the deepest spiritual experiences. Jesus recognized this dual creative process, as is shown in many statements relative to his work and the Father's work. My Father worketh even until now, and I work. God creates in the ideal, and man carries out in the manifest what God has idealized. Jesus treats of this relation between the Father and the Son in the 5th chapter of John. The Son can do nothing of himself, but what he seeth the Father doing. For what things soever he doeth, these the Son also doeth in like manner. Thought is the creative power by which man builds a mentality and a body of perfection. Man understandingly uses his creative thought power by mentally perceiving the right relation of ideas. What he seeth the Father is doing, as stated by Jesus. Thus we see the necessity not only for thinking right thoughts, but also for having a right basis for our thinking. We must think according to universal principle. The successful mathematician bases all his calculations on the rules of mathematical science. So the successful metaphysician bases his creative thinking on the unlimited ideas of the one mind. Christianity is a science because it is governed by scientific principles of mind action. These principles are really the foundation of all the various sciences, but these sciences are secondary. Divine science is primary. The physical scientist deals with the electron or molecule or cell in his analysis of forms. He postulates that atoms exist, but he has never seen one. He assumes that the realm beyond the ken of physical perception is not possible with investigation. The metaphysician, however, delves into the realm where atoms and molecules and cells are formed, and he not only sees how they are made, but he acquires the ability to make them. He finds that they all are dependent on ideas, and that by using right ideas, he can make manifest any form or shape that he may desire. For example, what externally is named substance has its source in a mental idea of form and shape. What is termed life has its source in an idea of action. What is termed intelligence has its source in an idea of knowing. All the manifestations that we see about us are produced in the same way. They have their source in some idea in mind, and they can be formed and transformed at will by one who understands and uses this mind power. A study of the mind and its innumerable manifestation reveals often a difference between a thing and the mind in which the thing has its original impetus as an idea. Life in divine mind is unlimited as an idea back of perpetual omnipresent action, but by man's thought it may be subjected to many limitations. Substance in divine mind is an idea of perfection in form, but man's thought usually caricatures it. Intelligence in divine mind is all-knowing, but man's thought has said that there is ignorance. So ignorance has been demonstrated. But we should not assume that all manifestation is good, because the originating idea came from divine mind. All ideas have their foundation in divine mind, but man has put the limitation on his negative thought upon them and sees them in a mirror darkly. Applying this reasoning to individual consciousness, we find just how man thinks his body into disease. Instead of basing his thought on what is true in the absolute of being, he bases it on conditions as they appear in the formed realm about him, and the result is bodily discord in multitudinous shapes. Pervading all nature is a universal thought substance that is more sensitive than the phonographic record. The mechanical record receives and preserves vibrations of sound, but the thought substance does better than this. It not only transcribes all sounds, but even the slightest vibration of thought. So we can see how literally everything that is going through our mind is having an effect. Everything. The telephone system of a large city is a good illustration of the manner in which thought works on the organism. The nerves are the wires, and the nerve fluids are the electricity in the form of mostly sodium and potassium, which I have videos on. The ganglionic aggregations throughout the body are the substations. The presiding intelligence sends its thought from the head. Central, at the solar plexus, receives the message and makes connection with the part of the body designated. You think of your stomach. Instantly the connection is made with that center, and the presiding thought stationed there takes your message and carries it into effect. If the message is, you are weak, weakness is recorded. If you say, you are strong, vigorous, fearless, spiritual, intelligence, life, and substance, that message is transcribed and carried into action. Every part of the body is connected with the great solar plexus central station, which is very obedient in carrying out instructions received from the presiding intelligence in the head. There are several great subcenters and innumerable minor centers in the organism. These centers of thought are the formed ideas of mind that have an affinity for one another, based upon the attractive power of love, the binding factor of the organism. Physical science calls this binding energy centripetal force. But all forces of whatever character are fundamentally spiritual, and they must be reduced to ideas, thoughts, and words in order to be understood. All ideas pertaining to life expression have their centre of action in that part of the body called the generative system. Whatever thought we think or express in words about life is immediately sent to the generative ganglion and registered there. Not only are these thoughts registered, but man has, by repeated thinking, built up an ego or identity at that centre. The dominant thought of this identity is life action in its various phases. The life centre is divine and should be thought about and used in the purest, highest way. This will lead to the perfect manifestation of life in the whole body. All thoughts about the loss of life, or the weakness of life, or the impurity of life should be persistently denied out of mind, and we should make the strongest kind of affirmations of what life is in God. In this way, we connect the life centre with its spiritual source, and it is restored to divine harmony. A majority of the ills that afflict the body have their origin in erroneous thoughts about life and in misuse of the generative life function. In Genesis, the life centre is compared to a tree. Its roots are in the ground and its branches reach up to the heavens. All the pleasant sensations in the organism are produced by the forces emanating from this centre. Along the nerves or branches, the life centre sends its currents of life to the very extremities of the body, and even beyond into the finer ether of the soul. The life centre is spiritual, but its vibrations are so subtle, serpent-like, that man is tempted to eat its fruits. Talking about sexual temptation here. To consume in its pleasant sensation the reserve forces of his organism. His indulgence unfrocks him, takes away his robe of power and mastery and dominion over the physical forces that environ him. Instead of abiding at the centre of his head and consciously ruling it and the world of nature without him, he is cast out from the Garden of Eden. By a right understanding and by using right thoughts and words, man will regain the kingdom within him and will be reinstated in the Garden of Eden. This process of man's taking up power and dominion again is now being carried out in all those who are seeking the righteousness of the Christ consciousness. In this higher thought realm, all ideas pertaining to the life of man are in harmonious relation. And when we ask in silent thought for this knowledge, our mind is flooded with its light. We apprehend only according to the receptivity, steadfastness, understanding, and persistent faith of our own mind. But we grow in faith and understanding, and no matter how slowly we seem to be progressing, we should never be discouraged or give up. Everyone is heir to this higher thought consciousness, and all must eventually attain it. When the beauty of this spiritual realm is spread before us, we should express gratitude, give thanks to the great soul of the universe. When the astronomer Kerr realized the grandeur of the laws that were revealed to him, he exclaimed, "O God, I am thinking my thoughts after thee." And that is the end of the lesson. So we will move into the statements and affirmations for the realization of divine mind, the Christ mind. We'll do 3 deep breaths and then get straight into it. I will leave a gap for you to say it out loud or quietly to yourself in your head, as you prefer. Here we go. Inhale through the nose and through the mouth. Let's go. Number 1. Number 2. And number 3. As he thinketh within himself, so he is. My heart is righteous toward God. Where my thoughts are gathered together in my Christ name, there I am in the middle of them. I will think no evil, for thou art always with me. The thoughts of God are his angels. He shall give his angels charge concerning thee. The thought of foolishness is sin. The thoughts of the righteous are just. Commit thy works unto God, and thy purpose shall be established. I know the thoughts that I think toward you, say God, thoughts of peace and not of evil. How precious also are thy thoughts unto me, O God. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. I bring every thought captive into the obedience of Christ. The next one's quite long, so I'll break it into pieces. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honourable, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. I'll read that last one as one piece, just for you to meditate on. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honourable, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. Okay, that's it. Thanks very much for watching. Thanks again for all of your support and your comments. Keep them coming. Don't forget to let me know what you think of the idea of setting up some kind of like Kundalini or sacred secretion type retreat. Whether or not you'd be interested in that as an idea. Yeah. Thanks very much, guys. May divine love manifest itself in you, always and in all ways. Amen. Peace and light.